Hey, Justice Warriors, what up? Let me see what's going on with my mods. And um, let's see. How are you guys? I am so happy to be coming on live before dark, right? I can change the name of it to live before dark. So I'm coming on hoping that everything is plugged in and working well. Is the mic working well? Let me adjust it a little bit. And if anybody's here, if you can say hello, it looks like one person is here. If you can say hi, then I'll know if you can hear me. Because I have a feeling, I put somebody's name in the title of this. I have a feeling that a lot of these things are being taken down like as they go up. I'm not saying that I'm important. I'm not important yet. I mean, I'm important to me and the people in my real life, but on YouTube, I'm just like a speck of dust. However, it seems that some specks of dust have been getting visited and offered a lot of money to go hard fighting for the J and the Z and the P and the D. So, wow. So we're waiting for some hearings to happen. And I know JLR and some others are right there live on set. So I totally understand if you're watching them and not me. I have a few things I wanted to come on and share with you guys. So I'll just get right to it. Please make sure you're still subscribed. If you are subscribed, I've been subscribed to the Pascal Show for a couple of years, and I was watching him and I had been unsubscribed. So yeah, because he's covering this stuff and he's covering it well. In my opinion, not a lot of people have been covering it well. From jump, I was thinking that people were getting paid off. Either that or they were just so in love with these stars. They were so starstruck that they refused to believe the truth, even though I think that people know it's the truth because it's not like it's anything new. Anyway, please share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. Turn on your notification bell to ring if you want to be notified when I come on live. And you know what? I better take that name of the dude out of my title because it's going to suppress it, isn't it? Like they got the crazy bots, you guys. I don't know if I can take it out while, oh yeah, I can. I'm going to just take it out. Paid. There. I'm just going to pretend that I'm talking about Lady Diana. I said paid die, money talks, snitches get paid, fake or real. Okay. So maybe now I'll be in the algorithm. Man, I forget these things sometimes. It's like so easy to forget. Like I knew that last week when I put the J and the Z and I spelled it out into my title when I went live, like I think that was the one where I didn't have anybody the whole time. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the bots are real. The people are real. So one of the things that Pascal was talking about on his live just now, and I'll put a link to it in the description, was an interview with a content creator who had the video footage that he took when somebody showed up to his residence and asked him, he's a content creator on YouTube with 100,000 subs, asked him how much he's getting paid to cover the case the way he's covering it, and would he cover it a different way if he was paid more. And they mentioned something about the company, so you can venture to guess what that is. So the company allegedly, in my conspiracy theory humble opinion, is also paying people to file lawsuits against Busby, the lawyer that's representing the people that are suing the J and the Z, right? So It is hard to keep it all straight. I apologize for any of the mistakes that I made, like in yesterday's live. I had a chance to review it, and there were a couple of mistakes. Around the 22-minute mark, I said R. Kelly when I meant Jay-Z, but I'm sure that everybody that was paying attention knew that that's what I meant because of the context of it, but I still apologize for the mistake. Also, I made a mistake on the year that B and J were married. Bay and J were married in '08. And yeah, I couldn't find the name of the guy who was a King County employee who was shot in a drive-by on the freeway when he was leaving work late one night and had car trouble on the on-ramp downtown. I'll keep looking for that. But again, these things get scrubbed and they also just get buried. So it's always good information when you notice that things get scrubbed and buried. So it looks like I have 2 viewers right now. If you don't mind hitting that like button and or either hitting the heart or saying hi in the chat, just so I know that my volume is working. I'm going to assume that it is because the little dots are moving. Please hit the like button and the hearts if you want to be super kind. And everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. I like to shoot from the hip. I'm not scripted. I have notes of ideas that came and went between now and my last live, because if I don't write things down, I'm not gonna remember most likely. So I always like to have my notes. They give me good guidance, but I have no idea how the conversation is going to go, especially because I really like to interact with you guys. So if you want to interact, great. If you don't or can't, that's cool too. Totally get it. I appreciate you watching. Again, whether you're watching live or you're on the replay crew. And I think I better shut my studio door because I hear some noises out there. Oh my goodness. I'm not the only crazy designer on YouTube that likes to talk about true crime and wear the funky stuff that I made. So this is a necklace that I made. Oh, I think it was right before I started my channel. It was right around the time I started my channel. It's freaking amazing. Is it Labradorite? I forget the name of this stone. It's very rare and it's really cool. It's like that bluish, grayish, greenish. I think it's Labradorite. It's one of my favorite colors. Anyway, and it's got wooden beads and metal beads, and it's super unusual. Not like anything I've ever made, because, you know, that's been my thing the last few years. And then that necklace that I got from a different artist like 35 years ago, probably. And then it broke like 20 years ago, and I've just had the pieces in my jewelry box, and I just picked out the center pendant, and now I've been layering it with all these other cool necklaces. Anyway, my whole point is that Pascal is like crazy like me, and he designs his own clothes and then he sells them on his show. And I had no idea, even though I've been watching him for a couple of years. I haven't heard him plug his creations until today, and I thought, that's awesome. Way cool, dude. Way cool. So if you're not familiar with Pascal, I highly recommend him. I first came across him in the Gabby Petito, Kylan Schulte, and Crystal Turner trifecta when he interviewed Cindy Sue, who was the person who discovered Kylan, and then the police came up and discovered Crystal at their campsite when they'd been reported missing, in the Moab PD, or I guess it would have been the county sheriff out there, said that they tried to look for them and they couldn't find them. But they were both highly dependable employees. Crystal worked at Mickey D's, and Kylan worked at the Moonflower Co-op, where Gabby and Brian had been hanging out on August 12th all day, not having a good day, having a very stressful interaction, which then culminated in a domestic violence incident on the sidewalk near Moonflower before they drove off to the Delicate Arches and were pulled over by the police. And then you know the rest of the story, probably, if you've followed that Gabby Petito case. So anyway, what was my point about that? That's how I found Pascal's show. And I was very impressed with his interview techniques and skills. He's definitely professionally trained and has a lot of expertise and background in that type of thing. So, he's an independent agent. I believe that he works on his own. A lot of content creators are just by themselves, like me. We just do our thing and we like it that way because we have a lot of freedom. And then there's a lot of content creators that make it big and they get picked up by agents. So I know for a fact Annie Elise got picked up by an agent because she would talk about it on her channel. And personally, nothing against Annie Elise. I think that she was really good, and that's why they wanted her. But you know me, I like to be straightforward. I don't believe in selling out. And I think it's hard when you're getting a paycheck from somebody to not sell out. And that problem has come up with the political channel that I've been telling you guys how much I like it. And I still like it, but it's the same thing with them, Midas Touch. So Midas Touch dropped Jessica Denson recently because of her opinion and what she wanted to talk about on her segment. And they wanted to say that her thinking that the election results needed to be verified was like being an election denier, and that they weren't down with that. So she went off on her own. And, that's great for people to have different opinions and to cover things differently. A lot of people that went with Jessica Denson quit watching Midas Touch. And I think that I'm sure a lot of people that watch Midas Touch quit watching her when she went off on her own. And it's really unfortunate. I love that we can all have different opinions and keep the conversation going. Like, for instance, I think it was just yesterday or maybe Monday. Yeah, I think it was Monday that Veronica Jokester came into my chat. And I love her. I love her energy and her message and her authenticity and her courage. And when she said hi and she said something about covering the fisherman thing, and I said, sorry, but I disagree with you on that, only to find out that she was not so sure where she stood anymore either. So when she first interviewed that fisherman in the Micah Miller case, the guy who discovered the $500 cash in the fanny pack and all that stuff, when she first interviewed him, she said that she believed him completely. And I think that she interviewed him because she didn't believe him. But, our opinions change over time as we think things through, as we get new information introduced to us. And just sometimes we just change our opinions, right? But I was really glad that I was frank and said something to her about that, to find out that she too was kind of up in the air on it, because I think sometimes we quit watching content creators when we disagree with them on something, which is crazy, because hopefully we will disagree with our favorite content creators on some things. Hopefully. I mean, I know I disagreed with a lot of people on the Kylie Rodney case. I still disagree with a lot of people on the Kylie Rodney case. I have my own opinion, which changes daily almost. Ever since the P. Diddy raid earlier this year, my brain went straight to that the two could be connected, not saying that they are, not at all saying that they are, but that they could. And that was just like my instinct and my intuition, not even thinking it through, like the way that R. Kelly and P. Diddy and Jay-Z and all the rest of them discover these young, hot stars and then want to have their way with them and want to, you know, take advantage of them to promote their music and to make them stars. So it's really sad that that happens, but it's entirely possible that somebody like that got their hands on Kylie Rodney, or that some of the people around Kylie thought that they could interest some people in that. And it's twisted. It's not as far-fetched as it might seem. These things happen routinely. And maybe, if nothing else, what the situation with Jay-Z and P. Diddy will demonstrate for a lot of us is how common these things are. And then how easy it is for these rich MFs to buy everybody's silence, to buy all the bots, to buy all the scrubbing, and to spin a narrative. So for the last few days, the narrative was spinning heavy. Like as soon as that NBC interview was on the streets of the YouTube with the alleged 13-year-old victim, then like 95% of the channels were like, see, she's lying because there's inconsistencies in her story and her dad doesn't remember. And she said it was a 20-minute drive and there's nothing in a 40-minute vicinity. Like there's not a big difference between 20 and 40 minutes to me. Plus people drive at different rates. Plus late at night, there's not traffic. Plus all the time that's passed, right? I mean, just so many things is crazy. And yeah, she might have gotten her wires crossed, but she stands by her story. NBC isn't going to be airing that story if it might be slander. And Busby, the attorney, is not going to be filing that suit if it might be without merit. You know, that's like the legalese term, without merit. So anyway, one of the things that I keep not saying, and I haven't heard anybody say this, you guys, is that so Diddy and Jay-Z allegedly would have these underage rock star wannabes, budding rock stars, sign NDA, non-disclosure agreements. And when they came to the parties or when they came into the scene, when somebody's under 18, their signature is not valid. They have to be 18 in order for a signature to have any legal bearing. So this girl said that when she was 13 and she went to this after party, that Jay-Z had her sign an NDA, right? Unless her parents signed it too, it doesn't even matter if the minor signs it or not. I mean, sometimes people like to have minors sign things just so that they take it more seriously if it's about them, like if it's like a school contract or something like that. But a minor's signature has zero legal bearing. Like, to the best of my knowledge. Maybe it's a little different in one state or another, but anyway, it's a smear campaign. It's a smear campaign against this victim, said victim, alleged victim. They're trying to allege that it's a smear campaign against like Jay-Z. And sorry, not sorry, but people don't do that to bazillionaires because I mean, nothing's impossible, but in general, people aren't going to do a smear campaign that is without merit against a billionaire because unless they're a billionaire too, they don't have a chance. Even if their case is valid, they barely have a chance. And this is why, because famous people can sway the court of public opinion. They can sway the actual courts. We've seen it. We've seen it, right? And yeah, it's all about the damage control and the court of public opinion. And that's why I've been very adamant about expressing my opposing views since that um, interview became public at the end of last week, because I've seen just a very small handful of content creators that have expressed that opposing view, that have more credibility, in my opinion. They're not being paid off, in my opinion, and maybe they have a little more experience with the courts to know that lawyers try to get cases dismissed routinely. That's just what they do. They make a motion to dismiss. They can make a motion to dismiss every day of the week, and they can just keep hoping for a lucky day that the judge says, okay, let's dismiss it for whatever reason. But because Jay-Z or Diddy's attorneys are making motions to dismiss things doesn't mean that they are without merit. Again, it's an intimidation factor. It's a gaslighting factor. So let's talk about the documentary of the women in the R&B industry that I mentioned yesterday, and I'd mentioned it another time recently too. It's called On the Record. I'll put it in the description. It was an HBO Max documentary, and Drew Dixon was the woman that spoke out the most, I think, and got the ball rolling. She was the one that really stuck with me. I think I watched it like a year ago. So it's called On the Record because it's about the music scene, and it's about how the Me Too movement was non-applicable to women that weren't white. And it never crossed my mind. It really didn't. So Drew Dixon, Sherry Starr, and Soleil Abram, I think is how you say the name. Those three are the main people interviewed and featured in that HBO original. And it's top quality, absolutely top quality. So for Jay-Z, back to what I was really talking about a lot yesterday in my video, for him to deny that he was friends with Diddy really demonstrates the desperation of being willing to basically perjure themselves, like him and his lawyer, because if they're going to document that and put that on paper, or even just putting it onto the airwaves, that's false. I mean, sure, how are you going to prove it? Because just because you have pictures of people hugging and kissing and shaking hands and dressing as twins and, with their arms around each other and making googly eyes at each other for a few decades, that doesn't mean that they're friends. That could definitely mean that they're lovers. It could also mean that they're friends, and it could also mean that it was all just a stage, right? So that's what Jay's agents are trying to present, is like, oh yeah, that was all just acting. A lot of those photographs don't look curated. They don't look posed. They look very casual. So I'd say it's going to be a tough sell. So the thumbnail that I used for this live today, and I'm thinking everybody is watching the hearing, so it's all right. I don't mind being all alone. The thumbnail that I used has a photograph of Diddy and Cassie and a young blonde white girl with her eyes closed and her mouth open. It looks like she's asleep. It looks like she's passed out. And it's kind of haunting. And I'm not thinking that that is Kylie Rodney, but it reminds me of the girl in the photograph that some of us call the Weekend at Bernie's photograph, of the three girls in the back seat of the car the two brunettes and the blonde who has her eyes closed, and her it looks like they're propping her up, and that looks like it could be Kylie. I don't know that it is in the Weekend at Bernie's photograph from the Kylie Rodney case, but maybe I'll try to put them side by side and change my thumbnail, because it's pretty wild how similar they are. Maybe it's the same girl and it's not Kylie. No, it's like the years would be way off, I believe, because Cassie, she just filed her lawsuit a year ago, and she had broken up with Diddy a while back. Should I look that up real quick? But yeah, I don't think that the time frames would match up at all. Cassie. And it's interesting how slow the internet is pulling these things up today. So they broke up for good in October of 2018 after a tumultuous off and on again relationship that lasted over a decade. So less than 1 year later, news broke that Cassie and Diddy had parted ways for good. They are indeed no longer together and haven't been for months, blah, 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 blah. There was something else that I wanted to share with you guys if I can find it. Yeah, is this it? I think this is just from like an hour ago. Yeah, this is from today. This is what everybody's talking about and what people are at the hearing about. It's connected. It's related. Jay-Z's Rock Nation hit with illegal solicitation lawsuit from attorney Tony Busby. You guys have probably heard this already today if you're following this stuff, because this is big news. So I've been waiting all week for Busby to come out swinging. So he finally did today, and it's Wednesday, and I thought that he probably would Monday, but timing is everything, and he was probably just trying to let Jay-Z really sweat bullets, and also to see how much more he would squirm after all his previous squirming and hanging himself basically by making all these outrageous allegations, like saying that he wasn't friends with Diddy. Like, that was a great chess move, in my opinion, that Busby provoked Jay-Z to say something so outlandish and so much a bald-faced lie. Anyway, let me read you this article real quick. Tony Busby accused Jay-Z's Rock Nation agents of trying to prevent him from pursuing cases related to Sean Diddy Combs. Jay-Z's Rock Nation is being sued by Texas attorney Tony Busby, and this guy represented a lot of people in the Astro World wrongful death suit against Travis Scott. The lawyer representing a woman accusing HOV and Diddy of assaulting her in 2000. I don't know what HOV means. Do you guys? If you do, well, I only have one person watching. If you know what HOV means, please share in the chat. If you can. Only if it's safe. If you're driving or you're at work or something, don't worry about it, of course. So on Wednesday morning, December 17th, that's funny because this article was just dropped today and they got the date wrong. So Wednesday right now is December 18th, but I do that sometimes too. So it's nice to see that these bigger journalists do it as well. Easy mistake. So it says on Wednesday morning, December 17th, but they meant Wednesday morning, today, the 18th. Busby issued a statement announcing the lawsuit. Today, the Busby law firm filed suit against Rock Nation and lawyers Marcy Croft and Quinn Emanuel for violation of various state laws, including barratry and impersonation of a public official. BARRATRY. Oh, and I think I was watching a content creator who looked that up, and it said something about like when you're out at sea and you're like misrepresenting, because if you're out at sea, you're not bound by any nation's laws. You're bound by the captain of the ship. So Baratray has something to do with the captain of a ship. I don't know how that ties in here. Maybe when things happened like on their small jets or on their yachts, maybe. Anyway, including Baratray and impersonation of a public official, Busby wrote. Baratray is the practice of illegally soliciting clients, commonly referred to as ambulance chasing. Okay, well, that's different than what the other person said, but that's good to know. An allegation Jay-Z previously levied at Tony Busby. Which is funny because Jay-Z accused Busby of doing pretty much exactly what he's putting his people up to, like basically being fraudulent. Bullshit. Being bullshit, right? Busby continued, the case was brought on behalf of a former client of the firm who was illegally solicited by agents working on behalf of the defendants. These agents pretended to work for the state of Texas and offered the former client money to sue the Busby law firm. And again, they were trying to persuade the court of public opinion that if you Googled Busby, you would see all these fresh lawsuits and you would think, oh, well, because there's so many, then they can't all be false. So he must be bad, right? So that would, basically attacking his credibility and his reputation, which that's slander, that's libel, especially when it's fake, then it's illegal. If you thought it was actually true, you'd be able to do it and say, well, I thought it was true. But again, people lie, right? People perjure themselves. The attorney claims this happened more than 24 times, resulting in 2 utterly frivolous cases against the Busby law firm. Yeah, most people aren't going to have anything to do with fake allegations because you can get in a lot of trouble for filing falsified court documents. That's illegal. And it's also like interfering with an investigation, obstruction of justice. Busby claims the defendants are attempting to obstruct justice and prevent the firm from pursuing cases related to Sean Diddy Combs in New York. The conduct isn't just alleged, it was caught on tape, he said. Last week, Jay-Z's legal team claimed that Busby coerced another alleged victim into fabricating accusations against prominent individuals as part of a financial extortion plot. Isn't it interesting? The exact thing that they were accusing Busby of doing last week is exactly what they're doing. So let me read you the post that Busby put on his social media today. Today, the Busby law firm filed suit against Rock Nation and lawyers Marcy Croft and Quinn Emanuel for violation of various state laws. Oh, this is basically reiterating what I just read, including Baratray and impersonation of a public official. The case was brought on behalf of a former client of the firm who was illegally solicited by agents working on behalf of the defendants. These agents pretending to work for the state of Texas and offered the former client money to sue the Busby law firm. The illegal conduct has happened more than 24 times to date and has resulted in 2 utterly frivolous cases against the firm. The lawsuit filed today alleges that the defendants' conspiracy, there's that word, is intended to obstruct justice and prevent the Busby law firm from pursuing cases related to the Diddy litigation in New York. The conduct isn't just alleged, it was caught on tape. Defendant Marcy Croft, who describes herself on social media as part of the team Rock, is orchestrating the conspiracy. They're conspiring. Dun, 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 dun. Along with assistance from defendant Quinn Emanuel. as you can see from the screenshot, Croft, Quinn Emanuel, and Rock Nation have a long working history. The suit alleges defendant Rock Nation is financing the illicit effort. As set forth in the lawsuit earlier this week, agents acting on Croft's behalf again were caught on tape soliciting and offering money up to $10,000 to former clients of the Busby law firm to convince them to file a frivolous case against the Busby law firm. These folks have now stooped to a new low to try to intimidate the lawyers of the Busby law firm from doing their important work. They now are contacting clients and former clients and actually offering them money to sue me. This conduct was specifically targeted at our firm so we would not pursue cases related to the Diddy litigation. Let me be clear, that's in all caps, yelling from the top of the mountain. We will not be bullied or intimidated. The defendants this time overstepped, got sloppy, and stupidly got caught at their illegal scheme on tape. We have reported this conduct to the authorities and intend to cooperate with the authorities to ensure all involved are prosecuted to the full extent under the Texas law. Dang, that's good. That's good. I mean, I wouldn't be against Jay-Z and Diddy if they weren't so disgusting. If I thought that they were being wrongly accused, I would be all for fighting for their side of the case. But that'd be like saying R. Kelly was wrongly accused, right? And Epstein was wrongly accused, and Ghislaine Maxwell was wrongly accused, and Weinstein got schlonged. I mean, when the person who said that when he was campaigning out of the clear blue, it was just a couple of days before he was talking about how well hung Arnie Palmer was. When he said Weinstein got schlonged, oh yeah, schlonged. Yeah, that's a word. That's a word that people use. It's like, I don't think so. I don't think any of us had ever heard it. Like schlong is a word, but schlonged, anyway, that's splitting hairs. The next words that came out of the person's mouth that said that were, he's a rich, powerful person. Like he shouldn't have been done dirty like that. And it's just like, what are you talking about? A rich, powerful person should be able to do whatever they want and get away with it, like Epstein, like Diddy, like what? And you got to remember what happened to Epstein's private jet that he did a lot of this trafficking with. It's in the hands of that individual who said that. Crazy. It's absolutely off the wall, crazy, insane. But I guess, I hate to just say, oh, well, that's just normal, because it's so outlandish. But those types of things have been happening, and we just haven't known about it so much, right? In my opinion. So, I wanted to mention some other cases too, not just this one. Let's talk about the shooting in the streets of New York City. Luigi Mangione, am I saying his name right? So people have talked about how hot he is and how he might be an incel, or he couldn't have a girlfriend because of the physical pain that he was in. And I brought up a few days ago that, he might not have been into girls. He probably could have whoever he wanted. He was a very good looking and intelligent young man. He went to an all boys prep school. A lot of people that go to all boys prep schools, it's sort of like being in prison. You just go with the flow, if you catch my drift. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I haven't heard anybody else mention the fact that he went to that all boys prep school in Maryland. I think his family's from Baltimore, and I think the school was in Baltimore, but maybe not Baltimore, but somewhere in Maryland. Anyway, yeah. And then that whole thing with his backpack, his like $280 backpack that was found in Central Park. But then didn't he have another one on his person when they apprehended him at the McDonald's? It's an expensive backpack, man. And then I guess that a whole bunch of those backpacks, is it called Apex? Is that the name of the company? Um, they started selling like hotcakes, even at $280. Everyone's like, "Ooh, I gotta have me a Mangione backpack." And then the CEO came out kind of bragging about how when he saw that it was his company's backpack, he called the authorities right away and basically um, shared all of the information that he could to help locate who might have purchased that backpack. And there was a lot of backlash to that in the public arena. And I got to say, I feel like that's uncool because when you've got a live shooter basically on the lam, confidentiality goes out the window, you guys. Like, even with doctors and anybody, like the HIPAA stuff goes out the window when you're dealing with imminent danger. So yeah, it's a good discussion to have about privacy and how easy it is to track people these days. And you wouldn't want to be wrongly accused because you gifted somebody a backpack and then they ended up doing something like that, and then the backpack was traced back to you. But I think that the knee-jerk reaction has just been a little much, and that it's mostly just because people want to say that this Luigi guy is like a hero of sorts, which he's not. If he did what he's accused of doing, that doesn't make him a hero, in my opinion, at all. Um, so I just think that that's something important. But the Mangione case, the Hannah case, the lost and found Hawaiian 30, now 31-year-old woman, and the Jay-Z case, those all came out last week, like 3 days in a row. It was like Sunday, you had the amended version of the lawsuit a week ago, so like 10 days ago. The amended lawsuit had mentioned Jay-Z by name and still not mentioning famous individual B, I think is how they phrase it. So there was famous individual A who participated and was a male, and then there was the famous person B who was a female who didn't participate but witnessed. And we still don't know who that famous person B is. I think I was incorrect in guessing at first that it was Bay. And then my second guess, after I slept on it, I think was J-Lo. And I still think it's her. And then I brought up, I think in the title of one of my lives yesterday or the day before, that it could even be Aaliyah. It could feasibly be Aaliyah, because Aaliyah passed away August 25th of 2001. And the allegation is that this happened September 7th of 2000. But now they're saying that there could be a mistake with the dates, that maybe it was 2003 because of the famous people that the alleged victim said that she spoke with, right, at the after party. And I don't know. It's my opinion that she could have still spoken with those people at the after party in the year 2000, even if they were out of state for an event that day. That doesn't mean that they couldn't have flown in to show up to the after party. I mean, that's what those people do. That's how they live. That's why they call them jet set, right? They're here, they're there, they're everywhere. So I have 3 people watching and still no one in chat. Did I hit the button that says you can't comment? Because nobody's even hit the heart or nothing. But that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, I think I'm almost done presenting the material that I had for you guys today. So yeah, I could talk for another minute maybe about the Hannah Koyaanisqatsi case. Koyasabi. Anyway, I do this every time, you guys. Don't make fun of me. But Kobayashi. Okay, there you go. Kobayaashi. So Hannah Kobayashi found safe basically a month after she slinked away from her party in the airport and then slinked across the border to Mexico. And that's all fine, in my opinion. It's fine for her to sneak off from these people. It's fine for her to go off grid. It's fine for her to cross the border. What's not fine, in my opinion, is all of the hype that these people made. And it's my opinion, this might not be a very popular opinion, but it's my opinion that the people that made all the hype about her disappearing were just desperate to find her for their own personal reasons. Fred Field, hey dude, thanks for coming in and saying hi. Nice to see you, and nice to know that you can probably hear me since I've been recording for 46 and a half minutes. So that'd be terrible if I had to redo it, but because I wouldn't redo it. It's all non-scripted and I wouldn't have it recorded, so I wouldn't even know what I said. Anyway, when that kind of thing happens, I try to do it over and see if I can do it better the second time. Like have you ever had that happen writing a paper for college or graduate school and it gets deleted and then you have to redo the whole thing, but then you just hope, well, okay, that was just the rough draft. I'll do it much better this time. But what a nightmare. Anyway, it's not so bad when it's just a YouTube video, but I do take my YouTube in very seriously. Anyway, what was I talking about with Hannah and the uncoolness of the people making such a huge deal? Because I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that the people that were saying they were so worried about her were really worried about her. They were more worried about themselves, and that if they couldn't control her, that was going to have some negative ramifications. So they tried to frame it with, oh, we just want to know that she's okay. And it's like, no, you just want to be able to keep your thumb on her pulse and take her temperature and know what she's thinking and what her next move is. So, maybe they're more responsible in a way. Maybe I'm just putting this out there for what happened with her dad. Like, because she was just doing her thing. And then they were hyping it up like, OMG, she's probably been abducted and sold and all that, right? And really freaking him out. I don't know. I mean, I do know from some of the research that I've seen online that he had a history of severe alcoholism and domestic violence. And I think that there was a domestic violence report from the local PD, the Hawaiian Police Department, maybe in Oahu, when Hannah was like 1 year old. And maybe was this accurate? By the time she was 5, they were divorced. So, the story was that he was an active alcoholic, like severe alcoholic, and that was what the estrangement was from. And estrangement is very stressful in a family dynamic, but I don't think it's right for anybody to judge. Like, you don't know the whole story. You don't know the gaslighting. You just don't know. Like, I mean, I was estranged from my father for the last 30 plus years. And you guys know the story. I mean, it would have been crazy for me to not be estranged from him, in my opinion. I don't advocate estrangement, but I do in situations like that. I mean, if somebody's made an attempt on your life, you might not want to be in communication with them, except you might be, because you might want to know where they are and keep their temperature, right? In case they're ever thinking of trying it again. So anyway, Fred, how are you? If you want to say thank you so much just for saying hi, that's helpful. Then I know that this whole thing has not been in vain. So I've got 1 like, I've got 2 people watching. What can I do to beg and beg for that other So my video yesterday, I started out by playing Justin Bieber's song Love Yourself, right? And I knew that that would make it not that I wouldn't be able to have it monetized, which is fine. I was really glad that I did that because, with all of these allegations against all of these females and all of the perpetrators being males, I think it's important to recognize that there are some men that are victimized and that there are also women who can be perps. So, whoever was in that room allegedly on September 7th of the year 2000 with Jay-Z, Diddy, and the 13-year-old, she could be considered a perp, even if she didn't have any physical contact with anybody and she was observing. I mean, that's so disgusting. She could be considered a perp and a victim. You could argue it either way. She could be both simultaneously. She's one of them for sure, if not both of them. But it was Annie, Granny Annie or Annie Ruler, if they're one and the same or not, that in the video yesterday brought up something. And I think she was looking for the term, and I was going to say it, but then I didn't say it. I kind of went off on another tangent. The term is identifying with the aggressor. Like, that's what victims do when they offend. So it's not uncommon for victims of SA to become perps of SA. And it's called identifying with the aggressor. And it's a very sick and twisted way of psychologically trying to empower yourself when you've been through a traumatic incident by becoming the person in the position of power. And it's sort of like what a lot of victims do just in becoming promiscuous and having consensual relations, hyper promiscuous. So that's very common for people who've been victimized to have that identification with the aggressor. And it's really sad too, especially when they're continuing to ruin people's lives because they're wounded and they're not getting clarity on what it is they need to do to heal. And then, you could argue that Diddy was identifying with the aggressor because Clive Davis allegedly did the same thing to him, and maybe to Sean Carter too. So I think that a lot of heinous perpetrators do have the victimization in their history, and it's not any type of excuse. It's not any type of get out of jail free card. It's just tragic. So I just wanted to address that because I think Annie was looking for the term, and I meant to say it and then I forgot to say it. So I thought I'd put that out there for anyone that's interested. I don't believe in the psychobabble terms, as I call them, except for that it is helpful to have words to identify concepts, right? I mean, otherwise, how are you going to identify concepts if you don't have the words for it? So that was a term that I learned in graduate school that really stuck with me. Not a lot of the psychobabble terms did. And as you know, I call them psychobabble terms. And I like to go cha-ching and cash in on that 25 cents when you use them. Because I think a lot of times people are showing off and they're just, trying to talk about, the 5 axes of the mental health diagnoses, and axis 1, axis 2, axis 3, axis 4, and axis 5. And, for most people, that's just going to go right over your head. Like, what do you mean axis 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? Like, when you're doing a psychological evaluation of someone, that's how you do it. Like, you have 5 axes, and your first axis is going to be basically mental illness, like depression, anxiety, transition, adjustment disorder, bipolar disorder, whatever, ADHD. And then your axis 2 is your personality disorders. And, axis 1 can be treated with medication and therapy. Axis 2, it used to be considered that you couldn't treat with medication and therapy, but I think you can. Again, if the person really wants to be treated, which normally they don't. And then axis 3, I think, is like it's been so long, I think that's like the comorbidity, or is that the psychosocial factors? So, yeah, I was thinking I could do it all off the top of my head, but maybe I should look it up real quick. Axis 3, I want to say, is medical comorbidity. Axis 4 is the psychosocial factors. And then what would axis 5 be? I can't even remember all 5. I'm trying to show how smart I am, and it's backfiring. Axis 5, personality disorders. Axis 5, mental health. Okay, here we go. So substance abuse disorders are also an axis 1. Personality disorders, and it says mental retardation here. I don't like that term at all, but for other mental challenges, let's say. And then 3 is the general medical conditions. 4 is psychosocial environmental problems. Okay, and then 5 is your GAF, your global assessment of functioning score, which rates a person's overall functioning, 100 being perfect, 0 being basically not alive. And most of us probably live in the range of a B plus, maybe B minus, somewhere between 80 and 90. I don't know. Again, it's been so long. Yeah. The GAF went from 0 to 100 and provided a way to summarize in a single number just how adaptively a person was functioning overall. So yeah, what axis is category PTSD? That would be axis 1, right? And yeah, so they changed things. The DSM is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and that's basically just like a little book, a little Bible of how to assess the criteria that people meet to carry a diagnosis. And if you don't meet all the criteria, like, you might need to meet 3 of 5 criteria to be considered severely depressed. And if you only meet 2 out of the 5, that doesn't mean that you're not depressed. That just means that you don't meet the criteria for the full diagnosis, but you can still diagnose somebody with features of severe depression, basically. So it's very nuanced. Mental health is very nuanced. Legal issues are very nuanced. And I think a lot of times the general population doesn't realize that. The general population thinks that mental health is black and white, like you're either normal or you're crazy, right? And no, there's no normal. Life is crazy, I like to say. And as far as legal issues go, every case is unique. You can't ever bank on the outcome of a case ever. There's no such thing as a slam dunk. You never know the twists and turns that might occur. And you also don't know that a case isn't going to set a new precedence. So just because things have been a certain way in law doesn't mean that there's not going to be a new precedent set with whatever case. So like, for instance, with this 13-year-old in the Jay-Z allegations, let's say she did get the year wrong. Let's say it was 2003 when it happened and she misremembered as it being the year 2000. All that means is that, she's a victim of a traumatic event. 20 over 20 years has passed since it happened. She also is, I think, officially diagnosed with autism. And I believe she officially had some type of concussion prior to the incident. And I also believe that I heard, tell me if you guys have heard this, that she's currently been having seizures from all the stress over this. Like, that's really profoundly significant and severe. And yeah, I'm very curious what's going on with the hearings that are happening in the Diddy case right now. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. It's just been an hour. Thank you so much for watching, whether you're on the replay crew or you're here live. I really appreciate you guys. I enjoy this process so much. It helps me think cases through and pay attention and think of how they apply in real life to people. And, I think it's important to be compassionate and understanding when people make allegations. If they're making fake allegations, then they're very sick and twisted and they need help, like severely sick and twisted, and they need serious help, like professional help. Nobody should do that to themselves, and nobody should do that to other people, because all it takes, you have 100 victims of being raped, and then you have one person that says that they were when they weren't, and that one person makes the other 100 suffer so severely and significantly as far as not being believed. Because it does happen once in a while that people make false allegations like that intentionally. I mean, of course, somebody could make allegations like that unintentionally if they are like so disassociative and living in a fantasy land, taking a lot of substances. I mean, it's just really sad that it just takes that one person making a false allegation to create so much more trouble for all of the people who have suffered actual attacks, assaults, whatever you want to call them. Same thing with harassment. And what I wanted to say in closing is that, Rock Nation is absolutely harassing Busby and the people that have filed lawsuits with him. Allegedly, Rock Nation is harassing them, and that's only going to, they're just hanging themselves. And again, it shows how desperate they are, that they don't have anything legitimate to stand on. So they're just grasping at straws. And, the saying that you use in legal terms is they're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what will stick. So on that, you guys, I'm going to say peace out, love and light. Thanks for joining me. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday, December 18th. And yeah, let's see what's going on with that case. Peace out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you very much.